Hey, Leslie from Comfortable Shoes Studio here, and this is art journaling number 22, Clear Gesso and Dirty Brayers. I am playing with my oil pastel resist technique in my art journal. I picked up some fresh Liquitex Basics paints and some FW acrylic inks out of the clearance section. So I'm doing a little skull here again. So I'm just using oil pastels. Now with this technique, I find the cheapest, finest oil pastels work the best for this. Um, you want something that's oily and greasy, and the pigment load doesn't matter. You could just use one color. Although I often scrape the layer of acrylic paint off and will use these as collage pieces. Sometimes I just toss them into the recycle bin. Sometimes I use them. You want a nice heavy coating of the oil pastel on there. All right, I'm using my 5x7 gel plate. This is Gel Press brand. I'm using this with black Liquitex Basics. I'm rolling that out nice and even. I'm not bothering to fill the whole plate because I know the skull is not the size of the whole plate. I'm just rolling out what I need. And I press a little too hard here on the oil pastel, so it does pick up more of the paint than I would like it to. So then after this, you gotta wait for it to dry a bit. I'm rolling a lot of the black off on my brayer into a, not a magazine, but you could use a magazine, old magazine, and just roll off the brayer into a catalog. It's catalog. Here we go. And I'm using some of the acrylic ink, and I am going to roll it out, and the acrylic ink has a really tough time sticking to the plate. So it beads up. I think you can kind of see it there. It gets this cool kind of resisted like texture, kind of like the way water beads up on a windshield. So I'm letting that dry. A lot of this process, I'm doing a layered print. A lot of this process is rolling paint on, then letting it dry, then rolling on more paint, adding texture, letting that dry. So all of these layers have to dry before I put on my next layer. And it was a little damp here this day. We had some rain, and so the house it felt a little moist inside. So this is a art journaling session that lasted about an hour, and I've chopped out a lot of it because there were a lot of sections of waiting. And here I discovered my brand new tube of fluorescent pink paint was partially hardened. You can see that it's all chunky and crusty, and I'm just not going to get good results with it. Yeah, it's all congealed there inside the tube. So I did return that and get a refund. The other pink tube, unfortunately, was also congealed. They only had one other one left. So I did end up picking up a tube of red instead of hot pink. Not my favorite. I would have rather have had pink, but in fluorescent colors, I like pink over red. So instead I use Cad Orange here to add the next layer, and I'm just doing a super thin layer. I'm letting these be very transparent. Then I'm just going to scribble in there with the end of a chopstick. I'm being careful as I go over the areas with black that I'm not lifting the black paint. The black paint's pretty delicate. You could use a fan, like a little desk fan, to speed up the drying process between layers, but don't use a heat gun on your gel plate. It will melt it and ruin it. So now we wait for this to dry. I have some iced tea there. All right, now this is dried sufficiently. Take a look at it from the flip side. I realized that my cutting mat there was making it difficult to see. I'm going to use white to lift it. And so when you are doing a multi-layered gel print, you want a even but thin layer of paint. So you see how you can see the black through it? That's about the size you want it. So I'm imprinting this in my sketchbook, and then I waited a long time. I clipped that out so it looks like it's instant. It was not instant. You need to wait. So it's nice and smooth. And now I heard a trick from Andy, who left a note on the channel, that you can put clear gesso onto your gel plate and get a nice texture for drawing on. Now, this is clear gesso. It's got a lot of tooth. It is Liquitex gesso, so it's toothy. And I make the mistake of not cleaning off my roller enough, so you can see that clear gesso has gone on and mixed with the white paint that I used to lift my print. So it's going to dull my vibrant, neon-y skull down a lot, which is a bummer, and it wouldn't have if I had cleaned my brayer better. So here, dropping that on, giving a little rub. You don't have to do that. You can just push on it, drop a book on it. Now, I do keep the acetate on one side. And I learned my lesson, and I roll off the excess gesso into that catalog. I'm giving that a second to absorb into the print. And then I'm getting impatient. I lift and take a peek and then pull it off. So there's a little bit left behind on the plate, but it's all right. So I am adding some white gesso. This is regular gesso. So you can see my Brayers pretty dirty there. I'm dropping this on the opposite page. So I'm going to draw on this page quite a bit, so I'm letting that sit for a second. And then peeling it up. I've got a pretty good imprint there. And I'm going to add some clear gesso here. My brayer is a little less dirty than it was before. I'm going to roll it off because that's gesso on there. And I'm getting that toothy roll out onto that page. So now I want some tooth up at the top of this page for the media that I'm going to be adding. I'm giving it a good press. So I've got to say that this is one of the best tips I've gotten for the gel plate and gesso just in general. Um, it works really, really well at putting a thin, even coat onto a journal page without getting brush marks. Just it's fantastic. For any of you who've been with the channel for a while, you know I like drawing sheep. It says an oil pastel sheep, and I will be using that somewhere in my journal here upcoming. So there. So I've got kind of a hazy, dirty gesso thing going on at the top. I'm going to give me some stuff to work with colored pencils and ink tints. Okay, again, rolling that gesso off. I have a nice even coat. Um, rolling back and decide I want a little gesso right there on that page. So again, you're seeing how I work. Like this page is not finished. I did work on it for one of my episodes, but I work back and forth in my journal. So here I'm gonna test, but the page has too much wet gesso on it, so I get out my heat gun and I give it a little blast, and get that dried so I can start working on it. So yeah, we were having a damp day, and the combination of like it being cold, my office slash studio is one of the colder rooms in the house. The room we have directly above it isn't heated, and just the heat doesn't circulate into this room nearly as well as it does in some of the other rooms of the house. So this room always stays a little bit chilly. So I think that impacts how fast acrylic paint dries, and um, just keeps it a little cooler. Also, the dampness of the day. We were getting rain that day. So here, Jenny sent me a bunch of distress crayons. I've never used them before. Feels kind of like water soluble oil pastel, um, or those, I forget what they're called. The gelatos, those stick watercolors. Um, and you can blend it with your finger. So the gesso is taking quite a lot. I mean, it's the amount of the distress crayon that's in that gesso is quite a lot. It's heavy. It's a heavy coating. So I'm really digging that. So again, I'm doing some of those tree structures around the skull. I've been hooked on those for a while. I've been doing a lot of tree structures and roots. So I'm doing them in two colors. Been thinking a lot about duality lately. Um, so the differences and things that we show, things we don't show. So kind of thinking about growth and the two sides of a person. So there's that, and then I'm picking warm and cool colors here. Again, to go into that duality, and I'm kind of doing the warm on the opposite side of the skull, the roots. So the distress crayons are not great for detail work. I'll say that. They're I like how creamy they are. I do wish that they were refillable. I hate plastic waste always bothers me. I think I've gone on about that on the channel before. I know I've ranted and raved on the blog about plastic waste. Yeah, I have issues with it. So, but I do like these. They do feel like a combination of like a cross between the water soluble crayons and oil pastels, water soluble oil pastels. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm pulling the gel plate up. Um, I always try to lift off. I mean, wanted to add some of the neon yellow to the white paint to see if I got anything interesting. So I'm trying to lift off the last of that gesso. Um, and I've got some deli paper here, which I find just the best for cleaning off my gel plate. Just rolling off the excess onto the page. I do that with light color. I do it with a lot of colors. I just will roll off directly into my sketchbook. I know that horrifies some people, but that's what I do. So I'm just dropping a little bit of the neon ink. This is acrylic ink, so it's a little glossy, um, and it covers okay. I mean, neon inks are never gonna give you, um, you know, opaque covering. It's always gonna be transparent. Just adding a little bit into that. I'm pulling my deli paper off and setting it aside. And oh yeah, I decided I wanted to get some of that kind of nubbly resisted texture on this page. I wanted to mirror that yellow, that neon, which is showing up as the camera sensor does not, or this particular camera sensor is not a fan of the neon yellow. It really just cooled it off. It's quite a warm yellow. It's neon, but this camera sensor is seeing it as green. So I'm just activating these distress crayons with a little water. Trying to get the roots to spread out a little bit and pull the branches of the tree structures out, make them a little more fine. Yeah. So I'm hitting this. I put quite a bit of water onto the skull, and I'm hitting it up with the heat gun to finish it up. So that's about the end of this. I think I go back in and touch up the black around the eyes and the nose and the jaw. Um, but yeah, that's about the end of this page. Probably gonna work on it some more. Might add some collage to it. I don't know. We'll see. So I just want to take a moment and thank everyone who's been watching the videos and commenting. I really get a lot out of that. It's my favorite part of the videos is the interaction with the community. I have decided that I'm gonna bump some of the vlog stuff out into its own channel. Anytime I mention health and wellness, people just dropped the channel. So I want to avoid losing people. So I'm gonna bump that out into its own channel. I'll put some more information about it into a vlog coming up. I will continue to talk about art and creativity in the vlogs, but the health and wellness stuff will go into its own account because I know people didn't sign up to hear me talk about um, getting healthy and my wellness. So trying to make this focused. So yeah. So anyway, thank you for supporting me. Thank you to everyone who has given me ideas or asked for, what can you do with this? What can you do with that? And I will continue to try and answer those questions and add stuff. I'm probably going to be on a kick with the gel plates for a while. That's how it works with me. When I get started gel printing, I don't stop for a little bit. So expect a few more gel plate printing videos. I might whip out some of the homemade ones. So yeah. Again, thank you everyone for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.